American story. This is a imperfect nation, but it is still a land of opportunity, and that was most deftly extolled by Tim Scott and Vernon Jones, many of the speakers actually. One that I don't think got enough attention, she was a little bit earlier in the evening, but it's a different sort of land of opportunity. It's a land of opportunity because it's a land of innovation and because the individual is a unit of analysis, not the community. We don't look at American society through the prism of government, or at least we shouldn't. And Natalie Harp and her story about the right to try that President Trump afforded her. The right to try turned out to be the right to life for Natalie Harp.
I should know, because I wouldn't be alive today if it wasn't for you. About 5 years ago, I was the victim of a notoriously deadly medical error. I survived, but only to be diagnosed with a rare and terminal bone cancer. You know, the Democrats love to talk about healthcare being a human right. But a right to what? Well, I'll tell you. To them, it's a right to marijuana, opioids, and the right to die with dignity, a politically correct way of saying assisted suicide. I was told I was a burden to my family and to my country, and that by choosing to die early, I'd actually be saving the lives of others by preserving resources for them, rather than wasting them on a lost cause like myself. And when I failed the chemotherapies that were on the market, no one wanted me in their clinical trials. I'd make them look bad. They didn't give me the right to try experimental treatments, Mr. President. You did. And without you, I'd have died waiting for them to be approved.
Anything to save one life. Isn't that what we're told by the Democrat socialists with respect to COVID-19?
And this lockdown craziness? Just saving one life.
Except if it's in the womb, the life is in the womb, except if it's end of life or they decide that it's end of life.
That's disgusting. Ugh.
For more on the topic of life, particularly because Abby Johnson is going to be addressing the convention viewers this evening, as well as other matters around religious liberty. Bill McGurn has a good piece on Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and their disposition towards Catholics in particular in the Wall Street Journal. I want to discuss with Eric Metaxas, the host of the nationally syndicated Eric Metaxas Show and author of the book series Donald the Caveman, which includes the just released, today, Donald and the Fake News in the Donald the Caveman series. Donald and the Fake News released today. Eric Metaxas, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Well, I love being with you. And yes, today, Donald and the Fake News. This is not one of my longer, more intellectual books. This is a humor book. But I got to tell you, we need humor at this time because if you look at the darkness, God commands us, to look at what is good and true and beautiful for the sake of our own souls, because we will lose sight when you listen to the lies. I tell you, listening to Natalie Harp last night, I got to tell you, it reminded me of that part in my own biography on Dietrich Bonhoeffer. The Nazis did the same thing. They would tell people that we're going to euthanize your son or daughter so that we can preserve the money and the resources for others who need it more, who can do more for the Third Reich. You hear this over and over in history, but the Nazis, I tell you, if anybody owns a copy of my Bonhoeffer book, you go to the T4 program. It is so chilling and similar to what we heard last night from Natalie Harp, and that is what we are facing. There are so many Americans and so many Christians who do not understand the nature of evil because we've had it so good in America. We cannot imagine what is possible. And so, to be positive, I wrote the Donald and the Fake News, Donald Drains the Swamp, and Donald Builds the Wall because they're humor books. We need to celebrate what this president is doing. He's a bit of a caveman, but sometimes you need a bit of a caveman to get stuff done. And if we cannot laugh and if we cannot create humor and joy in the midst of things, we're sunk because it's all so depressing. We need to rejoice and we need to pray.
It's the best series since Rob Becker's stand-up defending the caveman. Remember that?
Give us an excerpt. I mean, what's humor is with Donald Trump and the Fake News?
Well, Donald, when I first came to love Trump, I mean, it was at first I hated him. I'm a New Yorker. I said, this guy's vulgar. He's this, he's that. And a friend of mine who's illustrated, I've written a lot of children's books. People know me from my serious books, my Bonhoeffer book, Martin Luther, whatever, if you can keep it. But I've written a lot of children's books, and I've written a lot of humor over the years. And the guy who's a dear friend of mine, lives in Kansas, Tim Ragland, he's the one that really persuaded me to take a second look at Trump. And I fell in love with this character, Donald, and I said, who is this guy? He's like a folk hero. I've never seen a politician like him. And I said to Tim, we need to do a children's book that's really a humor book for adults, but that it can work for kids too, because we need to laugh with joy at what is going on and how ridiculous the other side is and the swamp monsters and so on and so forth. So the first one is called Donald Drains a Swamp, where he goes up against the swamp monsters because nobody is connected to their government. They can't get to the king unless they have money, and he drains the swamp, and they want to make him the new king. And he says, are you crazy? You're free now. Free people can elect a president, and then the president has to do the will of the people. So they become a free people. In the second book, Donald the Caveman says, we got to build a wall because there are people trying to sneak in and take advantage of our freedom. They're not freedom lovers. We've got to have a gate so we can let in who we want and keep out who we don't want. But the third book is called Donald and the Fake News, and it is for sure the funniest of the three. It is about there's a resistance, a group of people who really hate freedom because they lost their swamp privileges, and they're led by a sorceress named Madam Misspeaker. No relation to Nancy Pelosi. Just because she looks like her and sounds like her, I just want you to understand, Madam Misspeaker is a fictional character, and there's a Bernie character, there's an AOC character. I mean, adults will get all the political humor. In Donald Builds the Wall, there's a vicious gang called MSNBC 13, and it's just stuff that adults will laugh. But in a way, the three books are like parables of what is happening in our country, and you can use it with kids. But as I said, adults are going to be the ones falling on the floor laughing because there's some real funny stuff, and I think our side doesn't joke enough, or we don't have enough humor. We need to, once you get your MAGA hat, you need something else. Yeah. At least that's how I see it.
It's hard to keep up with the hilarity of CNN and MSNBC. There's no question.
Well, we need to. It's so depressing. We need to laugh. We need to rejoice. We need to pray. We need to see what is happening and rejoice in it, and know that there are a lot of people who see what we see and who know what this president is accomplishing despite the negativity.
I've got an idea for your next book. You ready?
Okay.
Yeah?
Donald and Herschel Walker go to Disney World and ride on the It's a Small World ride.
In a constant loop.
Oh, my gosh. The Herschel, there was so much last night that was fantastic, and I never thought I'd be looking forward tonight too. But I am really looking forward to it. Yeah,
I mean, I wish
amazing.
It was in person, like we were there 4 years ago, all of us. But it's it was such a spectacular. Yeah, every story that was personified and every speaker had such a wonderful, engaging story that I couldn't tear myself away for 2 hours.
Well, see, this is the story that's not being told in the mainstream media, and that is why we need to be loud and proud, because this president has enabled so many bad things to be pushed back and so many good things to be, unearthed and put forward that we forgot about. And I just, the reason I wrote 3 humor books is because I think our side often doesn't create humor. We let the other side make fun of us. We need to make fun of that side. There's a lot of material.
Yes.
And so, as I say, this is the third book in the Donald the Caveman series, Donald and the Fake News. There's also these little blue birds that the president dispatches to get his message out over the heads of, the mainstream media, so to speak. And it's they sort of look like Twitter birds, although I can't say that publicly.
Also, it's worth extolling our principles in a in a room temperature way, sort of the way that Tim Scott did last night. It's worth just being very matter of fact about the kind of civil society in which we want to live. I think most of us want to live. He did a good job of that. Jack Phillips, Masterpiece Cake Shop, cake artist, did a good job of that in USA Today last week, talking about what it's like to live in a tolerant society. And Bill McGurn does it as well when he asked the question in the Wall Street Journal, reviewing Joe Biden's actual record on religious liberty as opposed to this, Irish Catholic from Scranton, Pennsylvania visage he tries to promote. He writes, does McGurn, the issue today is no longer whether progressive dogmas from abortion and marriage equality to gender identity will prevail. Most already have. The question now is whether those who dissent from the new orthodoxy will be permitted to live their lives and run their institutions in accordance with those beliefs. It seems to me that Trump and the Republicans need to make it clear to people that may be a little bit head in the clouds on the threat to religious liberty posed by the Marxist left, that this is on the ballot on November 3rd, too.
Oh, listen, you know probably how big I am. That's my number one issue. As a Christian and American, I am amazed to see how we have had so much liberty in this country that most Americans are ignorant to the threats. The threats are very real. And listen, this is the natural thing that happens. If you take your eye off the ball, freedom goes away. Freedom is not a normal state of affairs. It's a gift from God, and we need to celebrate it. I mean, in my book, If You Can Keep It, which is not a humor book, but I talk about that because I think that, my generation, your generation, we were not raised understanding the tremendous threat. We didn't live, in the Cold War where you have godless communism on the other side, torturing priests and nuns and imprisoning believers. And so we sort of have forgotten the evil on the other side. And I think, as I say, we need to make this generation aware of what happens if we do not defend freedom, if we do not vote. How many Christians do I know said, I didn't vote? Oh, I couldn't vote for a guy like Trump because blah, blah, blah. And I thought, do you understand that if the other side is elected because you didn't vote, do you have any idea? You are guilty before God for allowing policies to harm the poor. If you really care about the poor and the urban poor, you need to vote. You need to understand that the policies and the administrations put in by one team are radically opposed to the administration policies put in by the other team. And I'm just stunned how many people have forgotten how important it is to vote, to be politically engaged, and to know what's going on. I mean, the reason I wrote these humor books on a kid level is we need to rehearse the basics of what is freedom, how does it work, why is it wonderful, why do we need to do what is necessary to drain the swamp. It's a type of tyranny, the swamp, to have a bureaucracy, a deep state that has grown and grown and grown. You might as well have King George III. We've forgotten these things. So I wrote this on a kid's book level so that, the adults, we can laugh at the jokes, but also we're getting something deeper. It's a sort of a parable form, a simple form to understand what does it mean to be free, what does it mean to get freedom, what does it mean to protect freedom, and what does it mean to deal with people who hate freedom because they would prefer to have their own little power, their fiefdoms, and so many people in the political class and in the media class, that's where they live. They live in that globalist elite world where they've got all kinds of privileges, and they look down their nose at those of us who are, flyover country, people who cling to their guns and Bibles. They completely don't understand those people. They look at us like we're aliens.
And Eric, another book could be Biden in the Basement. I mean, well, no, I mean, what does it say about him as a man and as a leader who doesn't leave his...
By the time the next book comes out, no one will remember the name Joe Biden. People are going to say, I'm sorry, who? Who? I don't remember.
But
did
what does
he
it
run
say,
for president?
Right, Eric, what does it say about him as a man and as a leader? If he's cowering in his basement, he won't even go, he didn't even go to Milwaukee. He won't leave. I mean, honestly, what happens if he does get elected and, he's an elderly man and he's frail and God forbid he'd have to meet with world leaders or travel outside the White House. It's a joke. Nobody can vote for him.
He's not going to be the president. That even if God forbid he were elected, he's not running the show. He has turned the keys of the kingdom or would turn the keys of the kingdom over to AOC and the squad, just as Nancy Pelosi. They have completely knuckled under to the woke, culturally Marxist mob, the people that are burning down Kenosha and Portland, those people are Marxists. They are not, peaceful activists or protesters. And people are too gullible and too, open-minded to understand there's real evil. There are people who hate your way of life, who hate my way of life, and they're going to do what has been done for centuries. They're going to take power if we let them. In America, we must not let them. We've got to understand what's at stake, and we've got to fight with everything we have. And if we don't, it's on us. So to me, this is a spiritual battle, and it's a battle for the soul of not just America, but freedom around the world. Because there's no America waiting in the wings if we fall down. There's China and there's communism, and the lack of freedom. Most Americans honestly cannot imagine what it would be like to live under a system that is not like ours, and I hope they never find out.
Yeah, they should ask somebody who fled here from one of those systems. I got Donald the Caveman. Donald the Caveman breaks Americans out of COVID gulags. How about that after the election?
Oh, we're going to keep writing these books. I mean, I expect Trump to get a second term because people will vote and pray and fight. But the third one, Donald and the Fake News, I think it's the funniest. Like, we've just got so much stuff going on. And our side, we need to laugh at what the other side is doing. If we can't do that, we need to have some joy in the midst of the battle.
He is Eric Metaxas, host of the nationally syndicated Eric Metaxas Show, and the new book in the Donald the Caveman series, Donald and the Fake News, that we were just discussing, which released today. Eric, thanks for joining us. Good luck with the book.
God bless you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
You're listening to Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
There are a lot of tough questions when thinking about caring for aging parents or loved ones. Most importantly, can they stay safe at home? With Home Care Angels Home Services, they can. Home Care Angels has been caring for seniors in their homes with compassionate and holistic non-medical care for the past 15 years. The Home Care Angel caregivers are certified in dementia care, COVID-19, and in-home care. You'll get highly qualified caregivers carefully selected for your loved ones to help with activities of daily living, meal prep, light housekeeping, or 24/7 live-in care. Due to COVID-19, they've taken extra precautions and implemented protocols consistent with CDC guidelines to ensure the quality and safety of all their clients. Home Care Angels is in Des Plaines, Illinois, and services all of Chicagoland and the suburbs. To request a free in-home assessment, call 847-824-5221. That's 847-824-5221. Home Care Angels is a proud member of the Home Care Association of America.
Are you still carrying around the extra weight you gained while stuck at home? You can look better in that bathing suit with the help from NJ Diet. You can still lose the fat this summer since it only takes 40 days.